Welcome in to News and Views with Tom Lamprecht. The stories you've heard and the ones you need to hear.
The United States will stand with Israel.
We should be aggressively trying to get to the ceasefire point.
The number one impediment to our economy is getting people back to work. They're being paid $20 an hour to not work.
Before the CDC made the recommendation change, I didn't want to look like I was giving mixed signals.
Your life, your values, your voice. This is News and Views with Tom Lamprecht on Talk 96.3 and 103.7.
Oh, yes. We'll get to Anthony Fauci in a little bit.
Fauci. Anthony Fauci.
The big story, though, here in eastern North Carolina, across the state, and for that matter, it's making national news. Pasquotank County District Attorney R. Andrew Womble claimed that law enforcement, the killing of Andrew Brown by law enforcement, was justified. He shared the results of an independent investigation by the North Carolina State Bureau of Investigations earlier today. Womble said the three deputies that fired their weapons, investigator Daniel Meads, Deputy Robert Morgan, and Corporal Aaron Llewellyn, won't face charges. While tragic, the shooting of Mr. Brown was justified due to his actions, Womble said. Here is the district attorney, Andrew Womble, making the statement from earlier this morning, cut one.
On Wednesday, April 21st, 2021, Andrew Brown Jr. of Elizabeth City, North Carolina, was shot and killed by three deputies with the Pasquotank County Sheriff's Office. This incident occurred at the residence of Mr. Brown, located at 421 Perry Street in Elizabeth City, North Carolina. After reviewing the investigation conducted by the North Carolina State Bureau of Investigation, Mr. Brown's death, while tragic, was justified because Mr. Brown's actions caused three deputies with the Pasquotank County Sheriff's Office to reasonably believe it was necessary to use deadly force to protect themselves and others.
That was the key statement. His press conference went about 45 minutes. It was interesting. I thought his demeanor, Andrew Womble's demeanor during the press conference was a little shaken. I thought this was not an easy press conference for him to get through, and I think he sincerely felt like it was tragic. At the same time, he also it's up to him to decide whether or not to press charges. He said he would not press charges.
Yeah, I think it's important to note, and he noted it, but around the state, I heard some comments already, but it's important to point that it was the SBI's investigation.
Right, it wasn't his investigation.
It's not his investigation. It's his job to look at the investigation based on the results of the investigation. Is it justified to warrant charges against the police?
Right.
So, I've heard a lot of people already commenting across the state, obviously for political purposes, but it was not his investigation.
Right.
Just like in any case, it's not his investigation. That's law enforcement's responsibility. And then the district attorney, based on the law, determines if charges should be brought.
The press conference was such that he made a statement initially. Then he went through very meticulously, and I'm going to play the audio for you. It's about 4 minutes long. Very meticulously went slide by slide. It wasn't the video, although they did end up showing all four videos from the body cams of the individual deputies who shot their weapons at Andrew Brown. Showed all four videos. I mentioned this last week, Benny, and you and I were just talking before we went on the air. I've got mixed emotions on using body cam video. It does tell a story, but I think it's important to always remember it doesn't tell the entire story. You are looking through the lens of a camera, and it's not even a wide angle lens. It's a straight lens, and so your peripheral vision on a camera is highly limited. You're not seeing 360 degrees around you. You don't know what's going on behind you. You're looking straight ahead through the eyes of the camera, and it never gives the entire full story. Saying that, he took slides from the different cameras and went through and explained to the press, and there was a lot of press there. There was national press there today, explaining slide by slide what went on. Now, I've edited this down because there are a lot of pauses in between the slides. It probably went close to 10 minutes. I've got it down to about 4 minutes. It is intact. I mean, everything that he said in this slide presentation I've got there, so you can hear his description of the explanation of the actions of the deputy, of the actions of Andrew Brown. Here is District Attorney Womble from earlier today.
You're looking at Deputy Llewellyn's body cam, and he went around the Pasquotank County truck. He approached from the passenger side. Deputy Bishop, Sergeant Meads were directly in front of Brown's vehicle, and Deputy Morgan approached last and positioned himself between Deputy Bishop and Sergeant Meads. Brown was holding his phone when law enforcement approached. Brown threw the phone down and began to rapidly back his car away from the officers. Deputy Lunsford's hand was still on the driver's door handle as Brown's car reversed and the handle was snatched out of his hand. At this moment, Deputy Lunsford yelled out, and Deputy Lunsford was pulled over the hood of Brown's vehicle, where his body and his safety equipment were struck by the vehicle. Deputy Lunsford's left arm was squarely on the hood. Deputy Lunsford took evasive action to get out of the way of the front left tire of Brown's vehicle, and law enforcement commands became more heated, with profanities shouted for Brown to stop the car. Brown ignored the officer's commands and backed his car until he was blocked by the rear of his residence. Brown then put the car in drive and turned the steering wheel left directly at law enforcement officers who had now surrounded his vehicle. Despite this tense situation and the aggressive driving by Mr. Brown, no law enforcement officer fired a shot. As Brown's car starts forward, Deputy Lunsford was now positioned directly in front of the vehicle, and all officers were shouting commands to stop. Brown ignored the commands and drove directly at Deputy Lunsford. Deputy Lunsford used his left hand to push off of the hood. It was at this moment that the first shot is fired. Deputy Lunsford then spun out of the way to avoid being run over by Brown's vehicle. According to the North Carolina Justice Academy forensic analyst Cason Reynolds, the first shot was fired by Sergeant Meads, and it entered the front windshield of Mr. Brown's car. Three deputies with the passenger. It entered the front windshield of Mr. Brown's car. Brown's car continued forward, passing Deputy Lunsford, Deputy Morgan, and Sergeant Meads. Law enforcement several shots on Mr. Brown began in the weeks prior. One shot entered the passenger window and struck Brown in the shoulder. That eventually led. Several more entered the rear passenger side door and window. Brown's vehicle then accelerated across the vacant lot next to 421 Perry Street, and 5 additional shots entered the rear windshield and trunk of Brown's vehicle. At this moment, Brown was driving directly at Investigator Johnson, who was positioned on Roanoke Avenue in an unmarked white van. Lieutenant Judd was positioned on the corner of Roanoke and Perry in an unmarked white Crown Victoria. Brown's car narrowly missed striking the van operated by Investigator Johnson, who accelerated to avoid the collision. Brown's vehicle crossed Roanoke Avenue and struck a tree in the residence on Roanoke Avenue and came to rest. Pasquotank County team gave chase, removed Brown from the driver's seat, and life-saving efforts were immediately begun. At 8:24, deputies notified dispatch of shots fired. Emergency medical services were requested at 8:26 a.m. Lieutenant Judd was the supervising officer. He was on the scene at the time of the shooting. Other supervising officers of Pasquotank County Sheriff's Office arrived, including Chief Deputy Fogg, who collected the weapons and cell phones of the officers who fired. All of the following is clearly depicted on the body cameras that were operational and functioning properly on April 21, 2021. They were being worn by the aforementioned Pasquotank County Sheriff's officers. The total length of officer involvement with Mr. Brown from the time they exited the vehicle until Mr. Brown was removed from the vehicle is 44 seconds.
That was District Attorney Andrew Womble giving the play-by-play of what happened during the search warrants that were trying to be served on Andrew Brown. He tried to escape. During his escape, basically, Womble is basically saying that he was using his car as a weapon, and the officers that fired upon Andrew Brown were justified in their actions. And you were just saying that WITN just came out with a report that the sheriff up there, Tommy Wooten is his last name, I think?
Tommy Wooten, yes.
Yeah.
Sheriff Tommy Wooten says the deputies involved in shooting will keep jobs, disciplined and retrained.
Okay. Disciplined,
yes.
Now,
So-
that's curious.
Well, it probably means, and I'm just speculating, that maybe there was some type of policy or procedure that was not followed, which, not following policies and procedures doesn't necessarily warrant criminal charges.
Right,
So,
right.
And I'm just speculating. I don't see much in the article that says anything about that, but nothing that says that. So, that they could have been some policies that it didn't follow.
Again, the North Carolina SBI says even though it conducted the investigation, it does not make any determinations as to whether criminal charges should be filed and or determined if a person's actions are justified or not. That decision is left up to the district attorney. And again, Andrew Womble, the DA, has said he will not file charges. Brown's family members, who last week were able to view additional footage from the incident, have called the shooting an execution. The family released a statement on Tuesday after Womble's announcement saying that calling the shooting justified was both an insult and a slap in the face. Andrew Brown Jr., his grieving family, this is the statement, Andrew Brown Jr. and his grieving family and the community deserve answers, and they received anything but from D.A. Womble's attempt to whitewash this unjustified killing. To say this shooting was justified despite the known facts is both an insult and a slap in the face to Andrew's family, the Elizabeth City community, and to rational people everywhere. Not only was the car moving away from officers, but 4 of them did not fire their weapons. Clearly, they did not feel that their lives were in danger. And the bottom line is that Andrew was killed by a shot to the back of his head. Interestingly, none of these issues were appropriately addressed in today's press conference. The North Carolina State Bureau of Investigation said in its statement that it would not release a report, something that the family said would help shed some much-needed daylight on this case and bring a small measure of justice to this family and this community, because we certainly got neither transparency nor justice today. We request that the Federal Department of Justice intervene immediately, which I would not be surprised if they did, the Biden administration's Department of Justice. The family lawyers have called on Womble to be removed from the case due to a conflict of interest, although I don't know what that conflict of interest is. The FBI has also launched their own civil rights probe into the case. After the announcement from Womble, protesters outside showed their disappointment. The county announced Tuesday morning that all downtown county offices closed at 10 a.m. prior to Womble's announcement. One of the things that you've got to remember that, again, we were talking before we went on the air, you were telling me the story of 2 young adults down in Kinston who had cocaine that was laced with fentanyl, took it, and immediately died. And, you've got to remember that this was a felon who had resisted arrest before and was a drug pusher. And, how many times have we heard stories that we grit our teeth and clench our fist in anger at drug pushers who have pushed a substance that have ruined lives and taken away lives? And
Mr. Brown, Andrew Brown had been convicted, and these charges was for selling heroin laced with fentanyl, which is literally like killing somebody.
Right.
You're selling them something that can kill them immediately, and obviously he's been charged before for resisting arrest. The police and the sheriffs in this instance, if they were going to arrest Tom Lamprecht with no record, they're probably going to approach you a little differently That
Well,
if
Tom Lamprecht's not going to try to run over anybody.
Yeah, but I mean, he had a history of this, resisting arrest, and so I mean, they're treating him differently, I guess. I mean, they should. The question I have, if we've got any lawyers out there, criminal lawyers that can answer this, the term that District Attorney Womble kept using, that the shooting was justified, I just didn't know if that was a legal term or not. And if it is, then obviously he said the right term. But to me, I mean, his job was to review the investigation and see if it warranted criminal charges.
And by the way, during the press conference, he went through a litany of who was talked to, who was interviewed, and I mean, he spent 10 minutes just talking about all the steps that were taken since the shooting happened back on April the 21st. And it's been a long, I'm sure, well, it's not over for him yet. Unfortunately for him and the folks up in Elizabeth City, this is going to be an ongoing situation for a while, most likely. And again, I think you're going to have the FBI, and I would not be surprised if the Joe Biden Department of Justice decides to get involved.
Well, I think they have a Department of Justice civil rights investigation underway. I think that's already been named, but not necessarily a criminal investigation. But one thing I want to point out, and I've seen on Twitter and the media today, and you just mentioned it when they talked about, the conflict of interest.
Right.
There is no conflict of interest. The district attorney does not report to the sheriff. He's elected by the people. He didn't do the investigation. The State Bureau of Investigation did the investigation. That reports to the Department of Public Safety. Department of Public Safety, Director of Department of Public Safety is appointed by the governor of North Carolina. So,
well, again, this conflict of interest accusation comes from Andrew Brown's family's attorney, and these same attorneys have made all kinds of wild, speculative, inaccurate statements. They called it an ambush. They called it an execution. They said the first shots fired were to the back of the head.
Back of the head from the
and
rear.
Womble made it very clear, no, that was not the case. The first shots that were fired came from the person that he was about to run over that was in front of the car. So, it doesn't help matters. I understand attorneys have got to make their case, but to make your case in the court of public opinion in such a way that has been stated, it does no favors to anybody that's actually trying to reveal the truth. And again, I don't have a dog in this issue, but it's pretty obvious that some of the statements that were made were highly inaccurate. We're going to take a time out. Lots more to talk about on this Tuesday edition of News and Views with Tom and Benny. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
And we're on location at one of my favorite places in the whole planet because this is some of the best food you're ever going to eat in your life. We are at Nino's on Red Banks Road in Greenville. It's one of my hangouts. It's one of the places that I love. I got my friend Pietro Pasalacqua. How'd I do?
You did great.
Let's talk about the food. What makes this place? I know it's special Italian from authentic Italians, but tell us why it's so special.
Because everything we do, it's really what we came up on the menu from what we did at home, from my grandparents, my parents. So it's exactly what we eat at home, and that's the way we cook. That's why it's special.
And the atmosphere in this place is special also. From the bar to the two dining areas. You got two different dining areas, and now the weather's nice, so there's going to be a lot of folks that want to eat outside.
Yeah, we have two rooms. One room is designed a little different. We're also working on the patio to make it more attractive and more useful in the summer with a cocktail service. And we're always improving our services.
And, of course, my friends here, my buddy, Chef Massimo, who I love, and Sal and Pietro, you guys do a great job here. Not just Italian, but I had a great pork chop here the other night. You got great steaks, too.
Mm-hmm. Yes, we're also adding filet mignon in the future on our menu. And Massimo is coming out with a really good side dishes for it. And so we're really excited to come out with new meats and fish dishes.
All right, Nino's on Red Banks Road in Greenville. Same people that give you Marabello's and the great pizza that you get at Marabello's, but this is fine dining at Nino's. If you haven't been here, you don't know what you're missing. come see him at Nino's on Red Banks Road. And Pietro, what is that famous saying about Nino's?
The food that you enjoy with people that you love.
Top Dog Academy is Eastern North Carolina's complete dog training facility. Top Dog provides an excellent environment for dogs of all ages with training services and work week daycare. Top Dog is located on Highway 43 South, just 4 miles from Bells Fork, and features a comfortable, healthy environment and a spacious facility for daycare and a brand new, beautiful facility for training. Call 752-8215 or visit TopDogOnline.com.
Come on out Highway 43 South to Top Dog Academy, where we know dogs.
Living easy is the sound of children laughing as you make memories with neighbors and friends. It's the sound of nothing at all. It's the smell of the salt air. Hear the waters against the marsh grass. See the beauty of our coast. Bow Coast, located in Beaufort, North Carolina. Southern Living's best small town.
This is your Drive at 5 and ENC with Tom Lamprecht. Welcome back to News and Views on Talk 96.3 and 103.7.
All right, welcome back in. Taking a look at your weather forecast tonight. Some patchy frogs.
Say frogs, really?
Frog, but I meant to say fog after 5 a.m. Otherwise, clear, low around 55. Tomorrow, again, some early morning fog. Sunny and high near 84 in the afternoon. Tomorrow night, mostly clear, low around 57. Thursday, sunshine with a high of 88.
You see that beautiful sunrise this morning, or you were still inspecting your eyelids?
I was up early. The sun was probably had broken across the horizon.
It's beautiful.
But I did not. I was not out there. Actually, my house is surrounded by trees, so I can't actually see it coming up over the horizon. But I'll take your word for it. Specialty FDR, the fencing and roofing company, is partnering with Texas Roadhouse in a fundraiser event to support Greenville Police Department Detective Nikki Verndon's medical fund. Nikki, a 14-year veteran with the department, was involved in a very serious automobile crash this past March on US 264 near the Pitt-Beaufort County line. She was traveling on her way back to Greenville from training at Beaufort County Community College when she was hit head-on by a vehicle that was traveling on the wrong side of the road. On Sunday, this coming Sunday, May the 23rd, while dining at Texas Roadhouse, when you're there, tell them you want to support Detective Nikki, and Texas Roadhouse will give back 10% of all sales, and then Specialty FDR will match the total amount. Shirts will also be available for purchase for $15, and any donations are welcome as well. Nikki and her husband Mark are dedicated law officers. They love our community. Pray for the family, help them recover financially with their medical bills. And a special thank you to Texas Roadhouse and Specialty FDR. You know, we were talking about the situation up in Elizabeth City. From the time the officers pulled up in their automobiles, and, well, it was really a pickup truck. They were all in the back of a pickup truck, to the time Andrew Brown's car ran into a tree across the street on Roanoke Avenue, 44 seconds. Mm-hmm. So it was, I mean, when you think about the adrenaline running and everything else, it happens quick. And it's pretty hard to describe, well, I'd do this. If I was there, I would have done this. I mean, it's hard to put yourself in that position. You know, the other thing, too, is the family said, well, 4 of the officers didn't fire their weapons. Therefore, that must mean that they didn't think that the shooting was justified. Well, if you look at the video, it was basically police officers surrounding the car 360 degrees. If all the officers had fired, it would have been a circular firing squad. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm sure the reason why more shots weren't released from the arms of those other 4 detectives was they were fearful of hitting one of the other detectives who were in range of standing right in the firing line. So it was anyway. Again, this story has not ceased by any means. 5618255. Let's go to Randy. Hey, Randy, how are you, sir?
Hey, Randy.
Hey, Tom, Benny. I hope you guys are doing well. Just I try to keep this brief. First thing, Tom, a little before the commercial, you mentioned you didn't have a dog in the fight. I'm going to politely challenge you on that. I believe we all have a dog in this fight because this, like all the other dust-ups over these issues, has to do with personal responsibility and accountability, and the destruction of that, which has been done through so many venues, is important to all of us. We've got to have accountability for our actions. Whether you're law enforcement or a citizen, if you do stupid things or if you do bad things, you ought to expect bad outcomes.
Well, my words were probably a little glibly given, but what I meant by that was I do not have any inside knowledge as to what went on. I don't have a special, a kinship to either the defense or the family members. I'm an outside observer, but I probably was too glib in making that statement. So thank you, Randy.
No. I know kind of thinking similar. So I was just taking opportunity to kind of remind people that, yes, it does matter. And these issues, we need to pay attention to them. We need to speak up. One other thing about the civil case, just as a matter of law in North Carolina, if you are found immune to criminal prosecution for the justifiable use of deadly force, then you are also immune to civil prosecution. Now, whether the federal people get involved and apply some overarching pressure or not, but I do understand that to be.
That's interesting. I was not aware of that. I was not aware of that. That's interesting. But be prepared. I will be shocked if the Biden administration, either via the FBI and a civil lawsuit or the Department of Justice with a civil lawsuit, I will be shocked if they don't get involved. I'm fully expecting.
Absolutely. If I may, real quick, then I get out of your way. The Coastal Carolina Taxpayers in New Bern tonight is hosting a Back the Blue ceremony where they're recognizing law enforcement in our community, and certainly would urge people to come out. That's at Stanley Hall Ballroom, downtown New Bern, 7 o'clock.
All right. Sounds good. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Randy.
I appreciate all you guys do. Take care.
You too. Appreciate it. Carolina Journal is reporting North Carolina is among the top 5 states in the nation on metrics such as tax rates, size of state government, and income transfer programs, according to a new report from the American Legislative Exchange Council. Only 4 states, Utah, Florida, Oklahoma, and Wyoming, came in ahead of North Carolina and the ALEC's Economic Outlook rankings. The Tar Heel State ranked 5th in last year's report as well. New York, Vermont, New Jersey, Illinois, and Minnesota ranked as the bottom 5 states. How about that?
Yeah, and as a matter of politics, this is just facts. You can say it's politics, but before the Republicans took over the General Assembly in North Carolina, we were way down that list, way down that list.
Brian Balfour said, quote, "This lofty ranking reflects a decade of sound, responsible fiscal responsibility by conservative leaders in the General Assembly." He is the Senior Vice President of Research at John Locke. "Sensible restraints on spending growth have enabled aggressive tax reforms that have made North Carolina far more competitive for investment and job growth. Our state's bright economic outlook is especially good news for those on the margins of employment because it means more opportunities for those who would be left behind in a more stagnant economy." I agree with that, and while we have the Emperor Cooper in the governor's mansion, we do have a very conservative state legislature, and quite frankly, I think we were really running on all 6 cylinders, all 8 cylinders when Pat McCrory was in there with the General Assembly, but nonetheless, the General Assembly that is controlled by conservatives is doing a good job.
And these type of statistics and information just brings me to the point of, and I get in some debates with Republicans and Democrats about this sometimes. I do not like incentives. We get disappointed sometimes when South Carolina or someone beats us on incentives. But if our goal is to make fair and competitive for everyone, make people want to come to North Carolina, you don't have to pay off people to come here.
I agree, and that has been a pet peeve of mine as well for a long, long time. Because essentially, when you dole out a lot of money to attract an Apple or an Amazon or a Dell or somebody like that, who's paying for it?
Yeah.
It's the people who are already here who have invested. So while you're rewarding this big company with the idea, okay, they're going to create a lot of jobs, quite frankly, a large company, no matter how large they are, does not compare to the numerous small family businesses across the strait. It doesn't even come close.
Yeah. And what are you saying that someone that's been here for 25, 30
Yeah.
years, continue to build their business, invest in North Carolina,
We're taking you for granted, is what
employing
you're saying.
2,000 people,
Yeah.
you're less important than someone that's
Exactly.
saying to come in.
Exactly. And there's a lot of people that would, debate us on that and disagree on
I
that.
get
but-
debated all the time about it, but I tell my Republican friends, just like the Democrat friends, you guys like incentives when you're in control. You don't like incentives when you're not in control. That's what it boils down to.
5618255. Let's go to Steve in Washington. Hey, Steve, welcome in.
Hey, Steve.
Hi, Tom. Hi, Benny. Just wondering what y'all thought about Tennessee adopting what's essentially the same as North Carolina's HB2. Their governor apparently just signed it yesterday.
I've got to admit, Steve, I read a lot of stories every day. I've not read that story yet.
That was in Breitbart today.
Okay, I have not seen that.
Tennessee is a very conservative
Yeah.
state. Very.
It's good company to keep. What's interesting about that, everybody's excited about Kristi Noem coming in. The HB2 bill and the transgender sports bills are, the new version of the controversy over HB2. But Kristi Noem vetoed that bill, or she wouldn't sign it. Did she actually veto it, or she let it die? I can't remember.
I think she let it die, I think.
But, that's interesting stuff. By the way, Steve, I know you're an attorney. While we've got you on the phone, what is the legal definition of justified when Womble says that the shooting was justified?
Well, from what I gather of what I've read and heard of the facts, they were in danger themselves physically because it was an attempt to move the car backwards and forwards and run over officers. So it was essentially self-defense.
Okay. So is justified a legal term, or is that just a practical term that Womble was using?
Well, I mean, the term justifiable homicide is one that's used in the law. Certainly, I think from what I read of the facts, that it was certainly a justified situation to defend themselves.
Interesting stuff.
A car is a deadly weapon.
Yeah. Well, especially when you've got a rap sheet as long as Andrew Brown had, and he had resisted arrest before. So,
I mean, some of these jihadist terrorists in Europe are now using trucks, cars, whatever, to run into crowds.
Well, 9/11, they used airplanes, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, Steve, thanks for the call. Appreciate it. We'll look into that Tennessee story. Appreciate it. First in Freedom Daily is reporting that the three-man U.S. Senate race for Richard Burr's seat, the primary, there's a lot of alliances and sniping going back and forth. What's interesting is L.A. Caldwell, D.C., her Twitter account, she's a reporter up in D.C., she says, I just asked Senator Thom Tillis about the North Carolina Senate race. After praising Representative Budd and Governor McCrory, he said, incidentally, I did leave Mark Walker out of the Bible candidates category. She replied back, you left him out on purpose? Tillis said, yeah, that's why I wanted to make sure you got it. What does he mean by the Bible candidates category? Now, I know that Mark Walker is a former pastor, but I'm
not familiar with that term.
Yeah, am I missing something here? Walker replied to the tweets, thank you, Senator Thom Tillis. Hope it's okay to use this in our fundraising letter.
Well, as President Trump has proven, I just don't think tweeting is a good idea in general. But
I think a long time ago, and I've got to admit, although I'm spending less and less time on social media, every now and then I see something so outrageous I've got to respond to it. But as a rule, political debate on social media is a dumb idea. You can't. I mean, it's a dumb idea. Don't do it.
Proverbs says something about that. Yeah, arguing with a fool.
Yeah. And what's the proverb? Keep your mouth shut and let them think you're wise. Open your mouth and they'll know you're a fool.
Mm-hmm.
Something. I mean, that's the Tom Lamprecht paraphrase of it.
Arguing with fools. Keep quiet, or lest you'll be just like them. Something like that. I don't remember.
Speaking of fools, we're going to take a time out, and we'll be right back.
Break the chain. Eat local. Tiebreakers.
Hey, this is Hank Hinton back here at Full Service Flooring in Winterville. I'm here today with Corey Little, who's the operations manager here at Full Service Flooring. Corey's been here 6 months, but you've been in construction a long time. Tell us about what you do here at Full Service Flooring.
Yeah, I got over here about 6 months ago. I've been in construction for, like I said, a little over 20 years, and I've known Tim for a long time now, and he's brought me over here to see what new kind of things I can bring to the store and to our customers. And I'm in charge of scheduling, and I don't know what else. I'm in charge of everything. It seems like we work together as a team and try to pull it all together. I might do a measure one day and do a commercial floor the next day, but we just kind of all work together and pull it all together at one time.
So what's new in flooring? What is the hot new thing?
The hot new thing is LVP or LVT, depending on what you're looking for, which look you're looking for. It's a waterproof product. It's absolutely fantastic. You can't really beat it.
A lot cheaper than hardwoods?
It is definitely a cost-effective alternative to hardwoods, yes, sir.
So, Corey, how is business right now?
And business is good. Despite the pandemic, we're still seeing a lot of new customers in the store, and we get an opportunity to introduce our products in a lot of different situations right now.
Corey, you've got a lot of experience in the construction industry. How is that helping you here with people, helping people with flooring here at Full Service Flooring?
Sure. I try to take the experiences that I've gained over my time in construction to help apply that to the flooring, whether it be with what the structure is made out of, the subfloor that we're going over top of, or maybe even just how it coordinates with your kitchen cabinets in construction or in your bathroom and how the tub and everything all ties together.
And a customer can just come here and see you anytime?
Absolutely. We're here 6 days a week, and we just love to see a new customer in here anytime. They can always call us and schedule something with us so we can make sure we have our time allotted for them.
Corey, thank you so much. That's Corey Little here at Full Service Flooring. Come see these guys. They're on Tilco Drive in Winterville, 756-9308 and fullserviceflooring.com.
In North Carolina, we get up before the sun rises and stay up into the wee hours of the night. We believe in working hard and playing harder. Behind every meal, there's a farmer, and behind every farmer, there's got to be NC, the official state identity program for North Carolina agricultural products. Look for the Got to Be NC logo wherever you shop or eat, and you'll know you're getting a quality product grown, raised, caught, or made in North Carolina.
To the show that really makes you think.
He is a genius.
He's all powerful.
He brought a kind of heat.
He could be the best. Just don't hurt yourself, okay? More news and views on Talk 96.3 and 103.7.
Welcome back in. 16 minutes before the top of the hour. Following up on that story that Steve Rader had called in about, the Breitbart story, Republican Tennessee Governor Bill Lee signed a bill into law Friday that separates private spaces such as bathrooms and locker rooms for use by individuals according to their biological sex. This law means the individuals who are biological males cannot use the restroom for women because they identify as a woman or vice versa. Under the bathroom measure, a student or employee could sue in an effort to claim monetary damages for all psychological, emotional, and physical harm suffered if school officials allow a transgender person into the bathroom or locker room when others are in there. They also could take legal action if required to stay in the same sleeping quarters as a member of the opposite sex at birth, unless that person is a family member. The proposal says schools must try to offer a bathroom or changing facility that is single occupancy or that is for employees if a student or employee desires greater privacy when using a multi-occupancy restroom or changing facility designated for their sex at birth. Lee, who is up for re-election next year, has said the bill promotes equality in bathrooms despite the prohibition against transgender people using multi-person facilities that don't align with their sex at birth. The legislation takes effect July the 1st. Sounds good to me. Sounds reasonable to me. By the way, this story is also in the News and Observer. But, it's rather curious that all the outrage for the transgenders to have access, there's very little said by the mainstream media for those people who will come off with psychological, emotional, and physical harm suffered. I mean, I'm sorry. I mean, if you're a high school male that says, I'm going to identify as a female, and the administration says, fine, you can go in and shower with the girls, that's going to cause some big-time psychological and emotional stress for those young ladies, and they should be able to sue.
Yeah, I think reasonable accommodations. I mean, I actually have compassion for someone that is going through these issues. I'll just call them issues.
But not at the cost, at the expense of the others.
Is your rights better than my rights to feel comfortable that, hey, I want to shower with boys, or I want to shower with girls, or whatever, and providing reasonable accommodations for someone that's going through that, a transgender person that's identifying as the opposite sex, then provide them reasonable accommodations to, have a bathroom or shower to themselves.
But that's why this is so frustrating, because it's not just, okay, we will accommodate you and we'll also try to accommodate privacy. The left wants you to embrace, celebrate, and fall in line with their agenda.
They will not allow me to say, I'm okay with what you believe, but it's not right for me. That is not good enough for
No.
I've got to believe what
You've got
they
to embrace
believe,
it
or
entirely.
I'm demonized.
Bingo.
That's the left.
What's interesting about this, because I'll segue into another story that was in the News and Observer today. The North Carolina Attorney General's office won a major victory yesterday when a judge agreed e-cigarette company Juul had destroyed documents, ignored court orders, and should face sanctions that could reach into the millions of dollars. Durham County Superior Court Judge Orlando Hudson ruled in favor of a pretrial motion that argued Juul Labs, Inc. violated court orders on providing pretrial evidence in a civil lawsuit brought by Attorney General Josh Stein. The lawsuit contends the company, the nation's biggest e-cigarette maker, marketed its products to minors. Hudson agreed the company should face the stiffest sanctions the state requested, sanctions that a Juul attorney had called the death penalty for its defense. After the ruling, as Special Deputy Attorney Brian Rabinowitz started summarizing the sanctions, Juul attorney Andrew McGann interrupted, saying, I'm sorry, he said. I want to get clarity on what's happening here. Is it your ruling that every single sanction that the state asked for that you're rewarding? Or, he asked, was the judge just giving guidance on each ruling? I have granted the state's request, Hudson said. I think their request for the ultimate sanctions is warranted by the arguments I have heard. All of the sanctions they asked for, McGann repeated? Yes, Hudson said. Now, I am not defending e-cigarettes here. And if they've been marketing to minors, they need to be held accountable. I'm not defending that. But I would like to ask the question, and again, I don't think it should be marketing to minors. Are e-cigarettes better than cigarettes, or are they worse? I don't know.
I would say no, just because of the simple fact your body's not made to breathe in those type of vapors.
Either one of them.
Right.
Now, neither one of them's good
right.
for you,
Fair
obviously.
enough.
Right. But here's the point I would make, getting back to the whole transgender issue. Would the left, who would vehemently be in favor of Juul cigarettes going down in flames, would they be as vehement when it comes to transgender chemical castration or transgender mutilation surgery on minors with no regard to their long-term consequences? Because right now, that's what the left are pushing. They're pushing parents, you get out of the way, you have no business. If a minor decides that they are a transgender and it's a little boy that wants to be a girl and he wants to cut off his male organ, that's up to him, and he ought to have the right to do that. If a young lady decides she wants to remove her breast, she ought to have the right to do that. And it doesn't matter if they're a minor, parents, you get out of the way. That is what is being pushed right now. So is the left, and I would actually agree with them on this, that you shouldn't be marketing e-cigarettes to minors. I agree with that. But is it going to be a different story when it comes to transgender mutilation, which is nothing more than child abuse? And it will happen one day. There are going to be, not too many years down the road, there are going to be lawsuits popping up with people who have gone through this mutilation surgery or this chemical castration. They're going to be wanting to sue because that happened to them as they were minors.
Well, the left, I mean, they don't think parents or families should have any control or any role in anything.
Yep.
They think the state, they talk about individual rights. They want the state to have all the rights over the individual and the families. And this is just another instance of it, really.
Stay with us. News and Views continues right after this.
Introducing Pepsi Mango.
Air Service is back at Pitt Greenville Airport, offering safe, clean facilities and flights from American Airlines. That means the short commute, quicker lines, and better prices that get you where you're going fast and easy. See it for yourself. There's great things inside at Pitt Greenville Airport.
Turn that old vehicle into cash when you cash in your trade-in at Greenville Toyota. Get up to 125% of book value for your vehicle, even if you don't buy from us. Trade for Camry, $189 a month, now at Greenville Toyota.
Sawyer's Fun Park in Winterville is now open. With over 40,000 square feet of family fun, daily money-saving deals, and a full-service restaurant, Sawyer's Fun Park is guaranteed to have something the whole family will love. Test your ninja skills on our 2-story obstacle course or head over to one of our 5 rock walls and race your friends to the top. And when you've worked up an appetite in our laser tag arena or our one-of-a-kind ropes course, grab a table over at the restaurant and try our world-famous Southern Monster Fries. Reserve your spot today at SawyersFunPark.com and come join in on the fun.
My name is Dr. Neeti Armistead, Chief Medical Officer for Vidant Health. The following simple steps will help keep you and your community safe. Stay home as much as possible, wear a mask when out in public, avoid large gatherings, practice social distancing, and wash hands often. It's also important not to delay needed care. Vidant has taken important steps to provide you and your family with a safe environment. Learn more about COVID-19 and Vidant's response. Call 252-847-8000 or visit vidanthealth.com/COVID-19.
Acre Station Meat Farm, along with Lane Angus Beef, bring you Farm to Fork Beef.
Stock your freezers now with affordable beef boxes, just in time for the grilling season.
Farm to Fork Beef brings quality local beef to your family. From your traditional butcher shop, Acre Station Meat Farm. Come on down to Acre Station Meat Farm and find out why we're #1 in fresh cuts and friendly service.
Acre Station Meat Farm, Highway 32 North, Pinetown.
Cash in your trade-in now at Greenville Toyota. We need your vehicle, and it's never been worth more. Get cash for your vehicle today, up to 125% of book value. Then trade into a new Corolla, $159 a month. Now at Greenville Toyota.
This one's for everyone who spends the amount of time it would take to watch a movie, agreeing on which movie to watch. You've compromised enough. Pepsi Zero Sugar.
Air Service is back at Pitt Greenville Airport, offering safe, clean facilities.
Yes, sir. I'll get right to the point.
Constant radical left propaganda
I myself get sick of it.
and social injustice wokeness.
I really don't understand why these corporations feel like they need to submit to woke culture.
Be thankful that there's one place conservative values.
All we want is freedom and liberties and less government.
They're still valued.
But it's not just on an American scale. I'm talking about a fight for our freedom. Conservatism is being attacked everywhere.
News and Views with Tom and Benny on Talk 96.3 and 103.7.
Dr. Anthony Fauci.
Fauciism.
The Washington Examiner is reporting that Fauci and the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention have been making up the rules as they go with no regard to the scientific data they claim to respect. We've known for months that COVID-19 vaccines not only prevent infection, but also significantly reduce the transmission of COVID-19 and its variants. This means that fully vaccinated adults should not need to follow long-standing restrictions aimed at reducing the virus's spread. Fauci admitted this week that he, just like every other health expert in the country, knew that this was true, but continued to push coronavirus restrictions for vaccinated adults anyway. He said, Fauci said, quote, "I didn't want to look like I was giving mixed signals." But the irony is...
He's Captain Mixed Signals.
You look up the definition of mixed signals, and there's a picture of Anthony Fauci next to it. I mean, that's all you were doing was giving mixed signals. You were telling people they needed to protect themselves by getting vaccinated, and yet you were wearing a mask 24/7. So your sign language was, this vaccine doesn't do any good. I've still got to wear my mask.
Or at the time before the vaccine, and when the mask craze was in the peak of this pandemic, he was at the Washington Nationals baseball game with his mask off, sitting right next to two people. So
Senator Rand Paul put it best when he said that this has all been theater, that there was no scientific need for Fauci to wear a mask after being fully vaccinated. It was just for show. That makes Fauci one of the most anti-scientists in the room. And it's true.
A fear model.
Yeah. It's political. Hey, listen, we're going to take some time off. We're going to do a little R&R for the rest of the week. So have a great week, and we will be back with you on Monday. So we'll see you then. Bye-bye, everybody.
All right.
That old vehicle into cash when you cash in your trade-in at Greenville Toyota. Get up to 125% of book value for your vehicle, even if you don't buy from us. Trade for Camry, $189 a month. Now at Greenville Toyota.
In North Carolina, we get up before the sun rises and stay up into the wee hours of the night. We believe in working hard and playing harder. Behind every meal, there's a farmer, and behind every farmer, there's got to be NC, the official state identity program for North Carolina agricultural products. Look for the Got to Be NC logo wherever you shop or eat, and you'll know you're getting a quality product grown, raised, caught, or made in North Carolina.
We're on location at Fabric and Home Furnishings, and I'm back with my friend Lisa Pendry. And Lisa's been telling me about all the great renovations that have been going on here in the store, and I've been looking around, and it looks fantastic. Tell us what you've done here.
Well, we've knocked some walls down, we've painted, we've added some new vendors, lots of new exciting things going on. So we're making room for everybody to get what they need to transform their homes.
Looks fantastic in here. Last time we talked, you were saying